The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says freeing the hostages that remain in Gaza was the focus of his latest talks with President Trump at the White House. The unscheduled meeting was the second time the two men have met in as many days to discuss efforts to agree on a 60-day ceasefire in Gaza. Earlier, Mr. Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, said he was hopeful a 60-day truce could be agreed by the end of this week. Meanwhile, a Palestinian official has told the BBC that the current round of ongoing indirect talks between Israel and Hamas in Qatar are stalling, with a key sticking point being how aid should be delivered during any ceasefire. In Gaza itself, the Civil Defense Agency says that 20 people have been killed in overnight Israeli strikes, including at least 6 children. These pictures are from the Al-Shati camp in northern Gaza. Reports say 10 people were killed there. Well, here's more of what Mr. Netanyahu posted on social media after his latest talks with President Trump.
I had another meeting with President Trump at the White House today, and then a brief meeting with Vice President Vance. We focused on efforts to free our hostages. We're not letting up for a moment, and this is possible because of the military pressure exerted by our heroic soldiers.
Our Middle East editor, Sebastian Asher, is in Jerusalem and explains how close we might be to a potential ceasefire.
The signs we're getting are contradictory from the US administration. They're still talking it up. They're still sounding upbeat about it. The US Special Mideast Envoy, Steve Witkoff, is still due to go to the talks sometime in the coming days. But what we're hearing from the Palestinian side, from the Hamas side in Doha, is more downbeat. A Palestinian official who is close to the talks, familiar with what's going on there, has told the BBC that they're essentially stalled. I mean, we knew there'd be sticking points. We knew that it would be difficult. There seem to be some technical details over the specifics of this particular ceasefire proposal as it's been laid out. What we're hearing from the Hamas side is they don't really feel that the Israeli negotiating team has been given the authority to answer their questions, so they don't feel that anything is moving there at the moment. From the Israeli side, we've heard some sense that things are moving forward, but there's also in the Israeli media some reports suggesting also that things could take some time. The Qataris, the main mediators here, the ones who are hosting the talks, have also said they believe that progress can be made, but it's likely to take days.
And meanwhile, continued reports of killings in Gaza. What can you tell us about this, Sebastian?
Well, latest reports we've had are from the Civil Defense Agency, the rescue workers in Gaza, saying that at least 20 people have been killed in overnight Israeli strikes in 2 places in particular. And I mean, this is what we're seeing pretty much every day, even as these talks go on, even as Mr. Netanyahu and President Trump are holding these meetings, these 2 meetings they've now had in Washington. The daily life in Gaza that people there have got used to, which is that they are struggling to find food and they're still facing Israeli attacks, continues. All of that, you would think, would give a boost, added momentum, added urgency to the talks, to the sense of trying to get a ceasefire nailed down. And people in Gaza have voiced to us over the past few days their concern that this all may be a mirage and that nothing will really come of it.
That was the BBC's Sebastian Asher in Jerusalem. Let's bring in Amy Shalan, Director at Macan and Chair of the British Palestinian Committee. Thank you for joining us on BBC News. We've been here so many times in the last few months on the brink of what appears to be a fresh ceasefire. What's your expectation this time around?
Well, obviously, everyone is hopeful that a ceasefire will come. Over the past 21 months, we've witnessed with ever-increasing horror Israel's military violence against Palestinians in Gaza, and it's been live-streamed in real time as Israel's committed worsening atrocities. And unthinkably, with the British government's continuing diplomatic and military support. And it's just worth reminding your viewers that Israel has attacked every single hospital in Gaza, Most are inaccessible or abandoned, and in areas under evacuation order, Israel has turned them into kill zones. And the few that have survived the bombardment of the health system are absolutely overwhelmed by the influx of injuries now. They're still under attack. They're unable to keep up with the influx of injuries and also the spread of disease. We've seen starvation as a weapon of war, and now we're seeing also militarized aid and the dismantling or attempts to dismantle those systems that have historically been able to provide aid to the Palestinian people. So the baseline of this ceasefire also is not even to end the siege of Gaza or to stop the occupation. It's not even about reconstructing Gaza, and yet they're finding it so difficult to negotiate. It's not even about people returning to their homes. It's now as low as stopping the execution of people who are seeking food. And it's really quite impossible to convey the magnitude and severity of what's happening in Gaza, and the helplessness that people feel as a result in the face of not only Israel's actions, but the complicity of governments like the UK that have been active partners with what's happening on the ground.
Of course, the focus at the moment, we understand from a Palestinian official, is how aid will be distributed in Gaza. Israel says that its aid system it's set up is getting more foods to Gazans, and the fact that people are being killed around some of these distribution sites, it says it's been targeting suspects. But just tell us, what is the situation when it comes to aid in the wider Gaza territory at the moment?
Well, it's just very difficult. We've seen, the pictures of people desperately trying to get to aid stations. There used to be a widespread access to aid across Gaza. Now it's been confined to small spaces where people have to risk their lives in order to obtain food. The evidence is there, and that has to be brought to a stop immediately. It's being used as a way to continue the starvation of Palestinian people and to fire on them and to threaten them and make them fearful of actually trying to get some support.
When you speak to Gazans, what are their expectations of what could bring about a fresh ceasefire and hopefully an end to this war?
Well, they're just desperate for an end to the horrific killing that is going on, but also they feel abandoned by the international community, which has allowed for famine and mass displacement to engulf the territory. And please remember, over 90% of Gaza's population has been forcibly displaced, many of them multiple times, confined into ever-shrinking spaces. We now have bakeries and water systems inoperable, and most of the arable land has been destroyed. And this devastation isn't collateral. It is part of a systematic campaign to dismantle and destroy the foundations of Palestinian life in Gaza. The targeted destruction of homes, schools, universities, cultural institutions, places of worship, and medical infrastructure, the deliberate targeting of doctors, of journalists, of academics, and the obstruction of humanitarian aid and the creation of mass starvation and famine. This all demonstrates a strategic aim to eliminate Palestinian collective life. So what Palestinians want, what we need, is real action in support of accountability and to ensure that all Palestinians can live in freedom, dignity, and justice.
And of course, Amy, it's important to say that, of course, Israel's position is that it does not target individuals, doctors, professionals and others. And of course, the UK government has said that it is speaking out against the killing of civilians in Gaza as well. But Amy Shalan, Director of Macan, thank you so much for joining us on BBC News. We appreciate it.